Today I'm going to show you how to go from this to a realistic saw blade. I'm going to be using the mix color node in the shading tab. First we're going to start off in the 3D workspace and delete the default cube. And I'm going to shift A and add a circle mesh. And press S to scale down. And go into edit mode with tab, extrude with E, and then press S to extrude it along the scale. I'm just going to add another little edge right here as a supporting edge. And I'm going to add another smaller extrusion. And this is going to be the teeth of the saw blade. Alright, so with this outer edge selected, I'm going to go up to the edge tab and then subdivide once. And I'm going to select every fourth point. So I'm going to select one, skip two, and then select the next one all the way around. And I'm going to press S to scale these outwards. These are going to be the saw blade teeth. You can scale them to whatever length you want. And after that, I'm going to take the one to the very left, each point to the very left of the one I just scaled. Select all these. And I'm going to scale these out as well. So press S to scale. Just get them to a size that looks good. And now we're going to rotate each of these a little bit on the Z axis. So select all these. Press R to rotate and Z to rotate on the Z axis. And you can just adjust these as you see fit. I'm just going to select these secondary points, scale them a little bit more until I get a shape I like. Now I'm going to go to the modifiers tab and add a solidify modifier. To give this a little bit of thickness, I'm just going to change the offset to +1. And for the thickness, I'm just going to eyeball it and see what looks good. I'm going to go with a 0.3. I think that looks just about right. And I'm going to apply the modifier. And then I'm going to Control A and apply the rotation and scale. And now I'm going to select each of these edges that create the saw blade teeth. I don't want to select the small vertical edges, just the edges going around the tops and the bottoms. And I'm going to bevel all these, so I'm just going to press Control B to bevel, and then press C to clamp so that way you don't get any overlap. Then I'm going to press A to select all, M, and then merge by distance. And that'll get rid of any extra vertices. Alright, so now we have our saw blade done. Now let's add some textures to this. So I'm going to go into the shading tab and create a new material. Just slide this over a little bit. And I have these textures that I downloaded from Poliigon. They're all free. The first one I have is this rust texture. And then I have this corroded metal I'm going to use. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. If we hook this up to the color of the principled BSDF, it doesn't do anything. And that is because we need to unwrap this mesh. So we'll go into the UV editing. You can see the plus over here. We'll add a UV map. I'm going to rename this. And then press A to select all, U to unwrap, and I'm going to do Smart UV Project. And there we go. And if we go back to our shading tab, we can see that now we can see the rust on the mesh. Alright, so now I'm going to select the secondary metal color. And I have this metal corroded that I'm going to use. I'm going to just put this on the bottom since the metal is going to be beneath the rust. I'm going to add a mix color node. I'm going to put the rust on the top, metal corroded on the bottom. And we can see now they're not really doing anything yet. So I got to create an image texture to make a factor. So I'm going to press Shift A and then type in image texture. I'm going to just rename this rust placement. Create a new image, and then for the color I'm just going to slide it up to white and create a new image. And this is going to be our factor. This is going to tell Blender which parts are going to be rust and which parts are going to be the metal color. We go back to texture paint. We can see now it's going to separate these two when we paint on it. I'm going to change this from mix to darken. And I'm going to go up here to the tool panel and go down to the texture, select new, and press this little button and we can open up a brush. I have these already. You can use whatever you want, make custom brushes, and they have to be white on black. And I believe also black with transparency works. And now we can see if we paint on our object, we're going to get these splotches, but they don't rotate. So if we go back up here to the tools, go down to mapping and change the view plane or the mapping to random from view plane, it'll rotate this brush randomly. That way we don't have any of the same look. So if you see, I change it to darken from mix because if you do mix, it will change the one you've already painted on. And I want to add instead of change. So if we do darken, we can overlap these brush strokes. You can go back to the textures and change this to whatever brush you want in the process. So I'm just going to go here and finish this up and go back to our shading tab. And don't forget to save your texture paint image. Just going to move this a little bit so we have room for our other maps. Alright, so instead of using the metal corroded, I'm going to actually use the maps from a different texture. First, I'm going to add in the rust. We're going to add in the metallic, the roughness, and the normal, all that stuff. And I'll show you step by step how to combine each one of these. And for the secondary maps, I'm going to use this metal galvanized. I didn't like the way the metal corroded looked as far as the bumpiness it created afterwards. So I'm just going to use a different roughness map so that way it looks a little bit different than what the metal corroded would have looked. Alright, so I'm going to add in 2 color ramps and we're going to connect the color to the factor of each of these and add a mix color. And we're going to plug in the rust to the top and then the metal color to the bottom. And we're going to take that factor, which is going to be the same throughout this whole thing, the factor from our texture paint, plug it into the factor of the mixed color and plug the mixed color into the metallic, and that'll give us the metallic of the rust and the metal beneath. We'll play with those sliders a little bit later and adjust the shininess, but now we'll do the roughness. We'll do it the same exact way. I'm just going to move this over. And for these, we'll need 2 more color ramps, so I'm just going to select these, Shift D to duplicate, and just drag them over here. And plug the color into the factor of each one. Add another mixed color node. and put the rust in the top and the metal color on the bottom. Then plug that factor in from our texture paint image. Just plug this into the roughness, and those will be controlled by the color ramps. I'm just going to move these over a little bit more. Move these up here a little bit. And that's what we got so far. We got a few more maps to add though. Alright, so now I'm going to find the normal maps of each of our textures. And we're going to want to add another mixed color node. And plug the rust on the top and the metal on the bottom once again. And our factor is going to be that image texture from our texture paint. I'm going to add a bump map. Shift A and search for bump. And for this, our normal is going to be from our normals combined into the mixed color. Plug the color into the normal. I'm going to add another mixed color. And I'm going to combine these two color ramps. The color ramps are from the roughness, and the factor is going to be that image texture once again. And this output is going to go into the hot, and then the bump map output goes into the normal. If it looks a little different here, it's because I changed it to render view. Now I'm going to add the displacement from each of these. And then we will need another mixed color node. And we'll also need a displacement node. We'll plug the displacement in to the displacement on the material output. And the mixed color goes into the hot of the displacement. And connect these two to the mixed color node. And don't forget to plug in the factor to the mixed color. And before I forget, we'll put this in cycles. And we'll click the denoise in the viewport. Alright, so now I'm going to just adjust these sliders. I'm going to adjust the bump a little bit. And we'll adjust the color ramps. And for the bump, I'm going to do 0.15. And for these color ramps, I'm just going to adjust these colors and the sliders. I'm going to put the sliders close together on each one. And then adjust the color to the left. And that's going to be the shininess. You can see how it changes. And just play around with those however you like. I'm not going to go fully black because then that will be really shiny. So for the rust on the roughness, I want it to be pretty rough. I'm going to go fully rough on that. And for the metal color, I'm going to go not all the way shiny, just a little bit. So I'm going to do like a light gray. You can see it's really shiny here. But I'm going to go with just a lighter gray. That way it's not too shiny. I think that'll look better. And for the metallic, I'm going to make the rust a little metallic and the metal just a little metallic too. About the same. And that gives it a pretty realistic look. Alright, so I'm going to go on to our bump node. and connect the normal output to the normal input on our displacement and adjust the mid-level some. You can see in render view, it's going to change it just a little bit, and it's going to add some bumpiness and displacement. That's going to make the rust look flaky. That way it looks more realistic, and you can just play with this and see what levels are good for your project. And this is what we have so far. You can adjust your lighting. For now I have a spotlight on this, but I'll adjust it here in a little bit to point lights. I think that worked a little bit better. I'm going to adjust the camera. Press in and go to the view tab. Press lock camera to view. And we can zoom around and just move our camera how we need to render the scene. I'm just going to leave it here for now. You can press F12 to render the image. And you can see the flakiness from our displacement and our bump map. You can adjust these however you want. Do the preview and then adjust them later. This is another saw blade I did previously. It has a little bit different values for the bump and the displacement. And this one had a point light. And here's them side by side, both with point lights. And you can see the one on our right is the one we just completed. And that's basically it. Now you have realistic saw blade with rust. Thanks for watching.